that judgment of other people, it's working off the self-judgment. Guys, why would you care so much to judge somebody else if you're not judging yourself? Let's be real, right? Hi there. This is Just Saying the podcast. You know, what we try and do here is help people navigate the difficulties and challenges we face in our everyday lives. It often seems that our biggest stressors, some of the most difficult times we face, are typically with the people we love the most. So that's our focus here. And with me, as always, my wing woman, happiest girl on the planet, Laura Sullivan. How are you, girl?
Good, good. Freezing out here while you're in sunny California.
We can't even reference like anything that we're actually really doing because the timeline is off. Like this
I
won't be
know.
dropping.
I
So,
know. I was gonna make exactly. It could be any month of the year right now.
you know what? I feel like today's topic is a big one. You guys, Laura was like, I'm not that excited about this. It's very heavy, Liz.
It is. I'm sorry. I'm now a little concerned.
I get it. Okay, so today we are going to be discussing the subject of judgment, specifically self judgment.
I don't know who knows, but I know that she has done a TED Talk on this very subject. I can't wait to hear really to dive into it and what you have to say about it, Liz, because a TED Talk apparently has to be 12 minutes long, which I never knew. And also, hello, you don't have a script. You don't have anything. You sit there. Actually, you stand there in your little circle. It looked like a little circle. I am amazed. And I just have to ask you, how terrified? Because I was terrified watching it.
This is what people don't know about TED Talks. You write it and you have a long time to memorize it. Here's the caveat. If you flub, if you mess up, if you pull a Cindy Brady and freeze, it keeps rolling. There's no two takes.
No editing. No editing?
No,
Oh my God.
you got to get up. You got to do it. You got to do it right. So, I didn't even know any of that, but when they asked me to do it, it was an immediate hard no. No, thank you. I didn't even think about doing it. Then I talked to a bunch of people in my life, and truthfully, I had written this memoir called Look at You Now. And I thought, what do you want me to do? Tell the memoir in 12 minutes? They were like, no. We have TED Talk sessions, have multiple TED Talks that shoot at the same time. And the subject for that particular series was unexpected endings. I think it means that someone who went through what I went through and wrote about my memoir is not supposed to have landed where I've landed. That actually interested me a little bit. So they basically said, no, we want to hear about the bridge, the emotional bridge from after your experience in high school to now. Like, what went on internally? And that kind of got me. I thought I would like to write something about that. Yeah, it was a process like no other.
So, what in the end really changed your mind?
Opportunity to write something and explore and share with people what went on the inside to get to where I am today. Yeah, I think I bit off way more than I could chew, but I do want to tell you one little tiny TED Talk anecdote. They give you a coach, and my coach lived in Ireland, and I lived in Los Angeles. She was the nicest lady, and they sort of help you, like you write it, and they go, no, that's not good, and then they really help you with your performance.
You
And
rehearse it? Sorry, do you
yeah,
rehearse it?
you rehearse it over and over again at your house, and then when you
Okay.
get there, there's no rehearsal. So she's basically there to make sure that you've put it together well and that it's understandable and then helps you with your actual performance. So she and I were on completely opposite time zones. And I was writing it and then I would read it. So one time in the middle, like maybe a month in, you get like a couple of months to figure it out. She was I don't know what time it was in Ireland, but it was like 3 in the morning in Los Angeles. This is the only time she had for me to practice it. So I
Right.
taped my phone up to my television so I could sort of stand and walk around. I was so tired. I literally was like, and when I finished, she goes, "You know what? That's the best performance you've given."
That's hysterical. Really? That's so crazy.
I go,
I
I think the note here is just talk. So that was probably, and she didn't mean to, the best note I got. But anyway,
well, I when I watched it, because I have recently again, I was in awe of the timing, like how you went from one subject into the other and you didn't stumble. Like it
mhm.
was like very linear and very
Oh,
smooth.
thank you, Laura.
And I'm just not saying that. I mean, because I would have still been trying to pick out my outfit by the time the camera started rolling. I mean, I'm like, why? How did she choose that? That's so cute. I mean, that's where I am. So anyway,
Yeah.
that's
So for
awesome.
for those of you contemplating taking on a TED Talk, it reminds me of, the big thing I always say that this incredible matriarchal woman told me a long time ago: do something once a year that scares the shit out of you. You know what I'm going to say to that? Maybe not.
Right, right.
It's just,
Although I do recommend cold water plunging. That is a
oh,
hard thing to do, and we can do hard
mhm,
things. But
okay. Cold water plunging, as
hmm
she lives
hmm
on the coast in Connecticut. You want to
freezing.
dive in here?
Please, I'm dying to dive in. All right.
I think where I want to start is how I opened the talk. Um,
Okay.
there is this kind of aloneness that we experience in life that we don't really talk about or think about. And when I say aloneness, I don't mean like alone on the outside or lonely. I mean like this super deep feeling that you're alone. And you know it is that kind of a feeling when you're going through something extremely challenging and difficult, maybe something you've never been through before, and it hits you hard that only you can get you through. That was sort of the best way I could describe kind of what it was I wanted to say.
So it's just you. It's just you and you.
Yeah.
You can't rely on anyone else. That's terrifying, by the way.
I feel like it's during the extremely difficult times in our life when self-judgment surfaces. It just does. It's how we all it's inside the operating system. When you're going through something that's super difficult, suddenly there is something in your own mind that can be working against you. Do you know what I mean?
I do. Now, I have a question. Do you think that starts when we're children? I mean, it's sort of embedded in us, judge ourselves.
I sort of see self judgment as like the commander in chief of the self critic, the self doubter, the self sabotager. It's kind of in charge of every negative thing that we have in our minds about who we are. And honestly, I think it plays a bigger part in all of our lives than we realize.
That makes total sense. I don't know anyone who might not do that. Like, I think we all do it, right?
All of us have our own system
Right.
where we're whatever we do to cope with life. But I think that, again, I'm always talking about things that people don't talk about. They just experience. I think that people really, really don't understand how much in charge of and in control of they are at what this self judgment and self critic is and the impact that it has on their lives.
Right.
I'm kind of hoping today that we tap a little bit on people's minds to look at and understand the impact that judgment has. How do you think we do that? Says Laura.
Well, I'm sitting here trying, as I said, it's heavy. This is heavy. I mean, how do we do that?
The beginning of that could be the next time you feel yourself challenged with anything that is going on in your life, inside of a relationship, inside of you with you. It's really important to stop when something is going on and check in with yourself. Now, imagine some of the biggest stressors that we go through. If you could stop yourself to pay attention and see what kind of narrative is being fed inside of you. Is it, okay, I got this. I'm calming down. I've been through hard shit. I can get through this. I'm going to do it. Is it that? Is it some sort of a low grade, you're going to be okay? Or do you have some berating asshole that lives inside of you that says, Jesus, you did it again. You're such a mess up. You're such a this. Do you have the negative stuff feeding you during times that are difficult to begin with? This is what I think we don't understand. I think people think when stress comes, when challenge comes, it's so challenging because on top of that, you have this sort of self-deprecating narrative that you don't even realize you're doing. So maybe the first thing one could do was to stop and check in on what is going on in my head when I am going through this.
That makes sense. I mean, so here in just my experience, I know of someone who is a inner critic in a kind of a constant way, always judging himself, asking, am I good enough? And usually saying to himself, I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not this enough. And that inner critic is almost paralyzing.
Sure.
Like, you can't move on. If you're already telling yourself you're not good enough, or you're, and judging yourself, as you say, I think you can get stuck in that. Just stuck.
Okay, so let's talk about that. I'm sure that every single person that is listening here is either a high self-judger or knows someone. Now, people don't really understand that some people use self-judgment as part of their coping system. These are the people I'm trying really hard to knock on their heads and say, can you look at that? Because if you're going to create a coping system to get through the challenges in life, the last thing you need is yourself berating yourself. Now, a lot of people who are really hard on themselves will defiantly and righteously say, I am hard on myself because I have to be. They truly believe that they would otherwise not be very successful or very productive if they weren't hard on themselves. But I would challenge that, Laura. I would say, all right, well, I get it. You want to be a motivated, ambitious, productive human. You don't have to do that with malice on the inside of yourself, right?
Right.
So how do we get people to look at the truth of what is going on? I've worked with a few people, and I want to share this. Every time we get to the place of judgment and self-judgment, the very first thing you want to do is recognize this, acknowledge, oh God, I do have this. Maybe I need to be a little kinder to myself and let up on myself. What some people have shared with me is that when they have stopped themselves to acknowledge that this is what they're doing, they're basically reporting to me that sometimes that self-critic is not their own voice in their head. It is the voice of someone else in their past, in their life. Obviously, we say maybe a parent, maybe a teacher, maybe an ex-boyfriend, maybe a this. But like the one big thing I would encourage you to do, even if you say, well, it is my mom, but I believe her, right?
Right.
This is sort of what it comes down to for me. When I did the TED Talk, I was referencing a time in my life when I went through, bar none, the biggest challenge I've ever gone through. And I was just a kid. I was a teenager. So maybe, I'm just saying, maybe the hardest of times are the times when we can shift and pivot and shed some of the things that are really going to define who we become. And I think for those of you who don't know my book, it was that experience that allowed me to begin to shed some of the incredible shame I had about myself. Because, you guys, here's what I really think. The twin sister of self-judgment is shame.
Right.
They are completely connected to each other. And for me, I think at a super young age, and so I'm grateful for this experience I had, because at a very, very young age, I literally do not think I could have survived life had I not let go of some of the shame I had around what I had done, where I was, what I had done to my family. I had to. And no, it wasn't a therapist coming in and saying, listen, Liz, you got to drop the shame. It was a survival thing. It was the alone on the inside thing, encouraging me to believe more in who, really encouraging me to say, okay, you made a mistake. You know,
Right. Right.
like, let's keep it in perspective.
I'm fascinated by how you shed the shame.
Hmm.
Because that to me, because what you said earlier about whether that voice was your parent, you know, in my childhood, I didn't have a very nice stepmother and who was very negative and always judging me. And I know that I've carried that.
Of
And
course.
only through like having my own family and my own children have
Hmm.
I been able to slowly
Hmm.
get rid of it. And P.S. No, it was her, not me. But I'm curious. I'm curious if there's no recipe for this. You just have to do
We're
it.
talking a little more deeply than the one, two, three to this. Okay.
Right.
As a human, nobody on the outside has a straight look at what is going on the inside of you. My efforts here, my efforts always, are to try and point out the things that we could look at inside of ourselves to end up making our lives a little bit of an easier place to sit. I'm going to give you an example here. And I feel this 1000% inside of me. All of us have a person, or if we're lucky, a few people in our lives who, when we are around them, it's literally, you can't put your finger on it. But you know, when you have a person that when you're with them, you walk away and you think, well, God, I like that person. What is that? They're just so, and that's it. You don't give it really another piece of thought. And I think there are certain people with whom we feel, I want to say, safe, free, seen, appreciated, respected. I think those are the people in this world who don't have judgment. And we don't put our finger on it, but that is what I can't tell you how to do it. I'm telling you how it
Wow.
feels. That's what it feels like when you're around someone who doesn't really have judgment. Now, wouldn't it be cool if everybody shot to have that kind of an impact on the people that are around them? And I can tell you this, guys, the only way to get there is to start with yourself. If you are treating yourself unlike how you would treat your best friend, your child, your parent, it's important to take a really good look at the self narrative. Because earnestly, okay, back to if it is, all of us have had people who have made us feel terrible about ourselves. I mean, the longer I live, the more grateful I am to my mother for that kind of support and buoying of me as a child, I think was part and parcel to some of the strength I had to get through what I faced later, you know?
Right.
So I feel like this is not a, hey, do one, two, three, and you can be here. No, I'm
Exactly.
asking you to do the impossible, which is look inside of yourselves and acknowledge some of what is there in the hopes of being able, I like to look at it this way, being able to be inside of yourself peacefully.
So here's a question.
Mhm.
Why do you think so many of us struggle with this, with self-judgment?
There is some sort of perceived virtue that is completely inaccurate when it comes to self-judgment. A person will say, "Well, I'm not hurting anybody. You know, I'm not being cruel. I'm not judging someone else. I'm just judging myself." I would start right there. There is sort of it's an okay thing to do. And I'm trying to say to people, no, it's not. It's 100% not okay. I would encourage this. I know that Laura is the kind of person who says, "Okay, Liz, I love what you're saying. Tell me how to do it." So this is as much as I can tell you. Try super, super hard to acknowledge the facts. What is going on in your mind, particularly when you're walking through challenge in life? And if you notice, wow, I am a lot harder on myself, or I'm hearing my dad's voice in my head. What I'm saying, Laura, is that is a recipe that our history and we have put together. No one else has done it. We did it.
Right.
So whatever is in there, it isn't rocket science to say to yourself, I'm going to let up just a little bit. I'm going to encourage rather than discourage. I'm going to give myself a break. Think about it. Think of how often, everywhere we go, in church, at school, give people grace. Give people the benefit of the doubt. I think that starts with ourselves. We need to give ourselves the benefit of the doubt.
Don't be so hard on yourself
Yeah.
all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think that people realize the inner narrative that's running. The people that we see out in the world that we think, well, she kind of thinks she's all that. Those are the people I think that really don't. Those are the people whose inner narrative is really, really killing them. Now let's hit just a tiny bit on the self-talk that we hear in our heads that isn't our own. Think about it. Like, think really hard about what everybody in your life historically has thought of you or made you feel like, whether this is external judgment or internal judgment, or kids being told they're not smart or they're not very good at sports. See, these are the things we kind of have to navigate as we go, and I have no idea. I'm sure this does start when you're a tiny kid. When you think about all of the things that have accumulated in our lives, it would be super cool to sit down with yourself and say, okay, well, we know what my dad thinks of me. We know, and this can work the opposite too, Laura. Like, when you've had a parent with super positive impact, people who've been telling you a certain thing that's positive about you, obviously that also plays a role. But we're talking about the stuff that is more negative and more difficult for us to manage. So if we were to pull apart all the things that people have said about us to make us feel we are who we are, what would we say about who we are? Think about that very carefully. If I said to you, Laura Sullivan, give me 3 words that genuinely describe you to you. Not from your parents, not from the world thinks I'm bubbly. No, that doesn't count.
Warm.
Warm. Ooh, I like it.
Present.
Present.
I'm loving. Maybe that's, because, my relationships I hold on to strongly. My friendship with you, my relationship with my husband, my kids. I am like sort of focused on those relationships.
Yeah, you are. Well, I love that because there's not a right or a wrong answer to this, guys. It's, a lot of people will answer what people say about them. I'm asking you about you. Let me ask you something else.
What?
And I'd like to ask every listener out there, how often do you think you judge yourself?
Well, putting on a bathing suit isn't pretty. I mean,
Keeping it external there, Laura.
I didn't go inward on that one. Less and less, I'm going to say. Less and less. But you know why I think that is? I think it's because I've done what you talked about before, and I have gravitated now in my older age towards people that don't make me feel, that don't tap into that judgment. In fact, there are friendships I've stopped because of the judgment from those people and how they made me feel. Does that, that.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think it's a constant work in progress life and who we are. Now, I'm I'm not about like every single day and every single moment should be self-improvement. What I'm really about is knowing who you are. Even we have to accept the faults that we have. We don't excuse them. We just have to accept them.
And that's when it gets tricky, because that's when you almost have to stop judging yourself to accept those faults, right?
Yes.
That's the dynamic, I think, is when, okay, I'm not going to judge myself. It's you go back and forth. I mean, I go back and forth.
I like what you said about choosing the people that you're going to have around you. Back to those few people that each of us has that makes us feel a certain way. And maybe we didn't put our finger on it, but maybe we now know. I think that might be a complete shedding of judgment of others and judgment of yourself. Maybe those are the people that we should be more beelining toward. And because what happens is, it's like anything. When you're around someone who kind of oozes something good, it tends to tap in to that part of you. It's an inspiration to you
Right.
to think, not so much to think, I want to have that effect on people, but more an inspiration to concentrate and better yourself for yourself first.
And what about, and this is really being honest, this question, but how do you stop from it going into you judging others? I do, I might judge someone else a little bit.
Yeah.
How do you stop that bleeding into, right? It's interesting to me.
These two things go a little bit hand in hand. I like to imagine that when you truthfully and successfully get to a better place inside of yourself about judgment, that it sort of organically and authentically bleeds onto others. I mean, I can tell you this. All that stuff our grandparents and our parents said to us when we were young: don't judge someone till you walk in their shoes, don't judge a book by its cover. I am that book. So I personally, I don't just say it. I really do understand that I don't know anybody's story. And since the moment I understood that at 17 years old, it's been helpful. And I think the kind of judging you're talking about is the stuff we see on the outside. And guys, I don't bother myself with the external. I don't care. I'm sorry. I really don't. And I think maybe one of the issues in today's society, particularly in this super heavy technology, social media world, is how much is put on the external. So, Laura, when you walk upon somebody and you think something not great about what they're wearing or what they look like or what their hair is doing, I'm just here to remind you that, that is nothing in comparison to what is going on inside of that person. And I think the same thing for you. Like, what we see on this outside of you is nothing in comparison to what's going on the inside. And my feeling is that if we can get the inside right, reasonable, peaceful, at ease, the outside it just doesn't matter.
I love that. I think that is such a healthy way to navigate life. The fact of the matter is, judgment takes a lot of time. It's an energy suck. It kind of is.
Your judgment, that judgment of other people, it's working off the self-judgment. Guys, why would you care so much to judge somebody else if you're not judging yourself? Let's be real.
That's right. Yeah.
Why would you care? I don't know. I think this is one of the reasons I also really like direct people. Direct people. People who say what they mean and mean what they say. Sometimes people say those people are a little rough to be around, and sometimes it's a little scary imagining something's going to come out that isn't
Right.
nice.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I'll tell you, I would take a direct person over a judgy person any day. Wouldn't you?
Totally.
Fortunately for me, but unfortunately for others, I can smell it. I can smell it from a mile away. No, thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
But
So, really, what I kind of hope for everybody today is that you knock a bit on the inside. Check in with yourself. We do so much for so many as women, as mothers, as partners. Let's just make sure that you're doing okay with you. And don't tell me that you're not in charge of what's going on in your own self narrative, because I think you are. It may take a little work and a little time, but knock on it, look at it, see what you find there. And if you notice that you are harder on yourself than you thought, let up.
right.
Let up. Go on. What were you going to say?
It is about living a lighter life. When you
Yeah.
criticize and judge yourself, it's a couple thousand pounds on your back.
Who has time for this anymore when we have so much Netflix?
It's so true.
So, I mean, I would say here a little bit in closing that judgment, inside and out, really does stand in the way of living a connected and open life. It's just astounding to me what can happen when it sheds. So, I wanna quote the last line of my TED Talk because I feel it and meant it with all that I am. If I could encourage anyone to do one thing, it would be to let go of judgment, especially the judgment you have on yourself, to create inside of you a place that can hold you up and root for you would be such a gift.
Bravo.
Okay, that's it.
We want to hear from you, listeners.
You just email me justsayinwithliz@gmail.com. That's just sayin, SAYIN, with WITH Liz, LIZ at Gmail. You can also DM me at my Instagram at Just Saying with Liz. You can message me on Facebook. This is Just Saying, saying goodbye for now.